Oh, hello. Welcome to the Goober Maneuver. And that was no sound effects, no echo technology. I had to do that myself. I don't have that fancy schmancy gear, so hopefully you enjoyed the self-made intro. But this is the pilot episode for the Goober Maneuver. I'm your host, Senjo47, and this is essentially going to be a podcast where I talk a lot about concepts within content creation and the gaming sphere. Maybe content relating to gaming, or maybe just stuff relating to gaming and not content creators at all. Gasp! Oh my god, he can do that? Do these things not link together? They sometimes do, but maybe they don't have to. I ask you this: are you ready? Let's get to it. First topic of the day: algorithms. Oh, spooky. Everybody's like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? Algorithm. Oh my god, bro. What? How do I manipulate the algorithm so I can be a successful content creator? Or maybe you just don't care about the algorithm because it's not worth worrying about. Whoa. Whoa. And I want to ask that question. Is the algorithm worth following versus is it worth avoiding? Not even just like objectively, but also subjectively. Like everyone's different, like mentally following an algorithm might not be for everybody. And sometimes the algorithm just fits you so well like a glove. You could just get in your blanket and feel all warm and cozy following the algorithm, making your guide videos, or your style just fits well for the game of choice or the whatever. Sometimes that's how it goes. And the answer to the question, is the algorithm worth following versus avoiding, is dependent on every different person. It also depends on where you lie in the sphere, like the specific niche. I'm going to use gaming as my topic because I am a gamer. I'm also a VTuber and I play video games, and that's just that's mostly my forte. Within the gaming space, each game is essentially a niche, right? So you can play Tarkov, you can play Apex, you can play Valorant, you can play Counter Strike, and each of these games, from a content perspective, has their own algorithms and their own preferred style that will end up getting you the most views. I'm going to use Tarkov as my example because this is the game that I make the most content in, and this is at the moment at least, and it's where I have the most experience. Tarkov loves guide videos. You want to make a very if you make an entertaining guide, they'll love you even more. But overall, you could make a simplistic teaching guide video, and you'll do pretty well. You'll get that viewership because that's just the style of the game. Within Tarkov, the general player base won't get to experience a lot of the gear, a lot of the weapons, a lot of the features because it's a time sink game. You have to put a decent chunk of time into the game or be very, very efficient when you play. So that way you're always gaining levels, you're always moving forward on the progression ladder of the game. And most casual people don't play like that. That's just they just don't sweat it up with the gamers, which is fine. I think a game should be able to be enjoyed however you want to enjoy it. But that's a topic for another day. Basically, this benefits people who make guide videos because usually guide videos will teach on a topic that is not readily available to the player base. So the only way they'll be able to experience it is vicariously through a video. And, it doesn't even have to be a guide video. It could also be like a specific gun that's locked behind a very high level. And the only way you're going to, again, to get to experience it is through the loving arms of a YouTube video. You can pretend you are the guy playing. Oh, look, I got the controller with no batteries, and now I'm playing. Oh, yay. Just like the good old days. But yeah, is it worth following this style? Well, if it's what you like. That's where the question really becomes simplistic. Does your specific niche have an algorithm that benefits your style? If you really like teaching and making guide videos, and particularly making entertaining guide videos, which is a little bit harder, but more effort is usually good. then obviously people will love it. People will love that you make an entertaining guide video, at least within the Tarkov space. Now, then it comes to kind of where I stand. This is where I'm on the fence, or this is my side of the fence. You're not allowed to cross. Don't go over here. I think it's worth more avoiding because I like guide videos, but not. I don't want it to be the forefront of my content. I prefer making storytelling videos where there's a dramatic story to tell with some funny moments here and there, and there's an objective to be done, and it's gonna be a nice, entertaining 10 minutes if you're willing to stay along. So that's the style of video I like making, but that's not really what's in Tarkov's graces. It's not so far out there that the algorithm's gonna hate me. It's just not within its graces. So it's that one like thing the judges have in their room. It's the scales, the little weight thing. Which one do you weigh more on? Because it also comes down to just the mental part of it. Like, what are you gonna have more fun with? Because I think what's heavily underestimated when it comes to all this algorithm talk is, again, the question, is it worth following versus avoiding? But in the sense of mentally, do you want to do that? Is that worth it? Is it going to net you all those viewership numbers and all those subscribers that you really want? And at the end of it all, are you going to be happy about it? I don't necessarily think so, which is why I lean 80-20, 80 towards it's more worth avoiding and 20 towards it's worth following. And that 20% comes from, I think it's important to understand your game's algorithm, because when you do have a magical moment, it's going to be great. And what is the magical moment? The magical moment is when you are making a video that can sort of fulfill everything. It fulfills your personal style that you really like to do when it comes to making your content, and it can also fulfill the algorithm. It's very rare it happens, but it's important to be able to recognize it, because then, during the editing process or during the process of finishing the finishing touches on the video before you hit upload, you can make it as best as you possibly can, right? Because it will get views, because it's within the algorithm's standards for this particular niche. So it definitely will get views. So you should make this as best as you can, and it's definitely worth at least having that knowledge. I don't think you should slave to it. Again, unless it really, well, at that case, you wouldn't even be slaving to it. You would just be loving your time with it. But again, I don't think it's worth fully following unless it is within your benefit to do so and your personal enjoyment to do so. Which brings me, awkwardly enough, it does bring me to my second point, which I do believe this is true, despite what I had just said. This statement being, you cannot be in the algorithm's good graces, but you can avoid being on its bad side. What the heck does that mean after you just talked about you're aware that this video is going to be in its algorithm's good spot? And, well, what the heck do you mean by that, Senjo 47? Yaguba? The Goober Maneuver, baby. I think no matter what you post, you can generally never expect the algorithm to help you, even if you are like 100% sure, which I don't think 100% exists. I don't think 100% exists, but I also don't think 0% exists. I think the best you can be is 99% sure, because these algorithms are just weird. They're just wacky. People will create a great idea, and for whatever unknown reason, it just doesn't do well. You never know. Because again, it isn't just only the algorithm. It's based on what people will personally like to watch, and you can't predict people. Ultimately, you can't predict people. You can predict the algorithm a little bit, to an extent, but you can't fully expect it to follow your whims. You can look at the number one YouTuber, Mr. Beast, and you will see certain videos just have less views. Why is that? No real explanation, right? Sure, he maintains a certain threshold, just some have less, and there is no real proper explanation. You can't really explain it, and that's just how it works, because Despite all the talk of algorithms and how important it is within the YouTube space, some things at the end of the day are dictated by people, and people are at the end of the day who's watching videos. So some things just fall out of the interests of people, fall out of people's interests, and what are you going to do? So that's what I mean by you can't be in its good graces ever, even if you're the top of the tippity top, but you can avoid being on its bad side. And to you, I ask you this: algorithm or schmalgorithm? That was my transition. That's how I transitioned to the next, or to the gaming side of things. And the gaming side of things is going to be all about game balance, and in particular, just how difficult it is. Uh, because I feel like game balance leans towards, these days, it only leans two ways for the most part. It's pretty, it's not that it can't be outside of these two dimensions, but I don't know why. With most of the popular games, it's usually this way. So let's look at Valorant and Apex. The two ways that games balance these days, or that the game balance ends up becoming. I don't want to say this is how they intend it to be, but it just sort of ends up this way due to like the player involvement plus the dev involvement. And I guess this is just the best middle ground we have at the moment, even though it's not really that good. It's either we have very few good options, aka like, if you're a meta person, there's very few choices that you can choose if you ultimately want to give yourself the best chance of succeeding, versus there's just an obvious power scale in the game with whatever things that you do, like whatever options you have within, like, in shooters, like I would say the power scale is within the weapons or the abilities if you're playing a hero shooter, and there's just an obvious hierarchy, like this is bad and this is good, and everybody knows that, and this is how the balance is maintained. And sometimes games do both. So how is this prevalent in these two games that we're using as our examples? Well, in Valorant, the first concept is used in the heroes, I believe. Sure, in ranked, you'll see everybody play whatever they want, and sure, in casuals or unranked, people will play whatever they want. But I think most of the really, really good players, even within ranked, understand that a certain 5 heroes are really good, or rather they understand the best hero for each role, which is the smoke character, the controller, the best duelist, the best initiator. It's just that people want to add some variety and not just play the best character, which is fine. But we all know, well, not we per se, but let's imagine that we're all the let's imagine that we're all the really good players in the ranked lobby. Like, let's say we're playing at immortal level, right? I think every immortal player within the 10-man lobby knows who the best characters are. They just might not play the best characters. And that's kind of what I mean by usually really few good options, because that exists in Valorant. For example, probably the best overall duelist is Jett. Maybe on specifics, if you want to like talk about certain maps, she might not be the best for map A or map B. But if you want to just choose a general character that's going to be good in a variety of situations, that's probably Jett. Whereas Jett, well, I'm gonna use Phoenix actually. Whereas Phoenix might have a lower percentage chance of being good on map A, Jett probably maintains a 50% chance of being good on all maps, which is what I mean by, again, the very few really good options. She is the very few option that is like, she's like the Thanos. She's like the Thanos of duelists. You can't go wrong. Maybe you'll go wrong one time out of 100,038,000 times, but that's not likely. It's really not likely. And then where the power scaling exists is it exists in the weapons. Although this exists a little bit more in Apex, but it's the same thing for Valorant. So like in Valorant, everyone uses the Vandal, the Phantom, or the Operator. These are the best weapons in the game. This is how it is. All the other weapons have their situational times, and Some weapons are just like A tier-ish, B tier-ish, but in general, the S tier and the weapons that everyone will be using are the Vandal, the Phantom, and the Operator, because that's just how the game's built. Same thing for Apex. Although in Apex, the top weapon, the top meta weapons usually change, but Apex has its really bad guns that you're not going to see anybody use. The Mozambique and the P2020 are the clear example, because that's just how it is. That is the hierarchy. The hierarchy is obvious. It's not hidden from the players. It's very clear that you're not, if you use a P2020, it's a self-imposed disadvantage. And that is how the game is balanced, where you want to somehow try and get the best guns in the game, or at least use something like one tier below. That currently exists in the burst meta. The Hemlock and the Nemesis are some of the best guns in the game right now. The 3030 is a tier below, because a lot of people prefer burst at the moment, because the game's meta is very low time to see, not low time to kill. I know you thought I was going to say time to see or time to kill, but I meant low time to see, as in the amount of time you're able to see your opponent is very minimal, so you need to hit them as hard as you can very quickly. So that's what the burst weapons are really, really good at. And that's usually because of the characters that are popular, which at the moment is Bangalore. So Bangalore is going to make it so right when you get shot at, she's going to toss a smoke. You're going to lose your chance to shoot the opponent additional times. So therefore, you need a burst gun, because the burst gun allows you to shoot them a lot in a very small amount of time. And to kind of bring things back to topic, this is just how games are balanced these days. And this literally exists, I believe, in most FPSs right now, and maybe in most games in general. I think the harder and harder devs try to balance stuff, the irony of it all is that it just becomes more and more sort of unbalanced. Because I compare it to the old days where I used to play on console the old Modern Warfare 2, 2008, 2009, maybe 2010. That game had a high power scale. That game had a high power. Everything was strong. That's the best way I can describe it. There were very clear outliers, but there was a lot of them. Like the UMP with stopping power, ACR, the Spaz had a crazy range. The Model 1887 prior to the nerf. I can name all of these options for high tier weapons, because the game's just overall power was really high, and I think that's how games should balance. I think we should start leaning towards just making things stronger rather than just bringing everything down. Both for the objective, reasons of balance, but then just for the actual player experience, the subjective player experience. I think it is just more fun to have a lot of stuff be strong rather than have everything just be really weak and I don't know, just have it feel not good, because the feeling is important. We underestimate it, but the feeling is very important. Just how the player feels when interacting or using any of these weapons or abilities. And to you, I ask you this: balance in all things, or nay? So yeah, that was the pilot episode for the Goober Maneuver little podcast Senjo thing. That's pretty much what you can expect. We're gonna be we just talk a lot about content stuff, a lot of concepts, and I might bring in some anime talk at the end here. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll see. But let me know what you guys think. Obviously, this was my first time, so it'll only get better from here. That's the goal. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.